It's been closed to the public since 1989, but the old Ambassador Hotel still occupies a prominent place in LA's memory. So why does one group want the hotel knocked down instead of renovated? As Philip Bruce learns, it's all about money and the need for a new public school. Here's one man's case for bringing in the wrecking ball in the name of LA school kids.
You may recall the Ambassador's glory days, but there's no sign of them now. For the past several years, the old hotel has been owned by LA Unified, and the school district has been debating how to turn the property into a school complex to serve Koreatown and the Wilshire Corridor. Most of the 5 options on the table call for some kind of preservation of the Ambassador, but Frank Acevedo represents a community group that's embracing the most drastic option. It would bulldoze the old hotel and start fresh from the ground up with a new school. They call themselves the RFK through 12 Task Force, in memory of the late senator who was assassinated at the Ambassador back in 1968.
Well, everyone knows that the schools are severely overcrowded. But one of the biggest things in this community is that every day we have a little bit over 3,800 forced bus children leaving this community. These are families that are waking up 4:35 in the morning at times to prepare their children to go to schools up to 2.5, 3 hours away in many cases for something as simple as a decent education that we feel they have the right to have in their own communities. So.
Many people would admit that's the case, and they know that that's a big strain on the school system, but there are also preservationists who are saying, why can't we have both? Why can't we keep some part of the Ambassador Hotel, and maybe all of it, and still have a school?
Right. Well, unfortunately, especially in the current crisis that we have with the state, we only have a certain amount of school construction bond monies available to us. So what the school district does is they allocate a certain amount of school bond monies for this area, and they say, you can build this many schools in this community. So from that pot, they determine how many schools we can build. If we take money out of that pot for anything other than school construction, say in this case, for example, the gutting and restoration of this hotel, then it takes away schools in this community as well. So we're solving one problem, and maybe even having schools here in a preserved building, or a building that's being restored, but we're also then removing the opportunity of other communities nearby here, in many cases the same community, from having other schools built here. So,
what do you say to people who point out that the Ambassador is not just a landmark, but it's one where a good deal of history has taken place?
And history is very important. That's why as part of our option, we've recommended to create a commission where we can preserve the history and the memories that occurred at the Ambassador Hotel. We feel that preserving a structure may be one important component of preservation, but if there aren't any educational components tied to that informed this community of everything that occurred there throughout the years, then it's senseless. And so we've advocated for a commission on history and preservation to restore and remember the memories that occurred here and teach them to the children. So.
And you recall the memory of Robert F. Kennedy, who was assassinated there in the kitchen of the Ambassador Hotel, as most people in this city remember. What does the Kennedy family have to say about the notion of this school being named after him?
Well, the Kennedy family hasn't taken a position formally. The Kennedy family, from what I understand, is allowing the community, this community that will be serviced by this school, to make the decision locally on what they would like to do. The Kennedy family hasn't taken a position on the school site, but we do feel as a task force that it is a better way to memorialize Robert F. Kennedy by building a school and giving other children in this community the opportunity of having an educational opportunity, rather than using some of this money for preservation, and some estimates up to $100 million would be taken away. So.
And there is a debate about the architectural significance of the hotel itself. I mean, Paul Williams, another architect, was a contributor to the building, but did not design the entire structure. What's your notion about how significant it is as far as the architecture is concerned?
Well, what I do know is that throughout the years, the architecture and the design of the hotel has been altered. In many cases, the architects that are doing design work for the school district aren't able to tell us specifically to what period it would be restored, because it currently has a 1970s design. So the building was built into the 20s. But throughout the years, again, it's important for us to understand that this has also been ingrained in our culture in the city. Whether or not it's architecturally significant is for the school district to decide. We do know that it's not registered in any local, state, or federal historic registers, and hasn't qualified as such. And we've also had notable architects such as Robert Winters, who prepares one of the foremost architectural guides for the city, to say that the building doesn't have architectural significance. And again, of course, it's subject to interpretation and depends on who you ask.
What are the politics of this situation right now? Because you know, and I know as well, that there is a great deal of pressure on LA Unified to preserve some part of this building just because of the factors we've been discussing here. What kind of political forces are coming together in this whole debate?
Well, at this point, again, the preservation lobby throughout the city is a very important one. And we hate seeing this as opposing sides, but there are business interests that want to see commercial development and housing built there. There are community elements like ourselves that want to see a school built as fast as possible. There are preservation groups that want to see it preserved. Throughout the years, it's changed, originally as a hotel, then as housing, and now as a school. But these are basically the political forces that are trying to push our leadership into making a decision. We're trying to push our leadership into making not just a quick decision, but a decision that impacts positively this community and also respects the history of the hotel for all Angelenos to enjoy.
Is this being presented as an either-or thing?
It has been, and we have been saying that it is an either-or thing. Again, it's about the money. In this case. But even more important than the money, it's about the children. It's been presented as, is it a preservation or business versus children issue? And in this case, it is. When you're weighing scarce resources with the need that this community has, we feel that the greatest need that this community has is that of educational opportunity. So in that case, it is, unless someone can actually show up to the table with the necessary funds to be able to move forward, then we really can't discuss anything further. We have already talked about time and safety issues. We want to make sure we have a safe school. We want to make sure it gets done as soon as possible. And we jealously guard these bond monies because there aren't much around.
But would a commercial model of using private building for some sort of retail or something, wouldn't that help generate money?
It would help generate money, but for the business community. What good is it to have a business community if you don't have skilled workers, if you don't have people from this community who live, work, and shop in this community to have informed decisions on their buying power and to contribute greatly? We feel that if this community has that opportunity of education and their income levels are increased, then it helps everyone. That's our starting point, is the education of the children. And from that point forward, we look at everything else being a positive thing. We don't think of business as being the starting point for our model. We think of the education of the children for this community.
Frank Acevedo, thanks for sharing your views on this. Good luck to you.
Thank you.